Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Real Estate Agent Training and Education for Real Estate Practitioners. I'm your hostess, Sonia Mays with Midwest Executive Realty, and it's a pleasure and honor to serve in this capacity. Again, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we are looking at the WB11 Residential Offer to Purchase form with specific emphasis on the binding acceptance date. So again, we'll be looking at the WB11 Residential Offer to Purchase form, and we'll be focusing on the binding acceptance date in the offer form. Lines 39 through 42, or lines 39 through 41 consist of the binding acceptance clause in the residential offer to purchase form, and it reads as follows. Line 39, binding acceptance, states that this offer is binding upon both parties only if a copy of the accepted offer is delivered to buyer on or before, and then there's a blank line. So what gets inserted on this line is the date for binding acceptance. So on this line, the agent that's writing the offer would insert the date for binding acceptance. This is not a response date. This is for binding acceptance. So whatever date is inserted here, this only applies if the seller is accepting the offer as it is written. A lot of buyers sometimes think that this is a response deadline date. So buyers want to give the seller, 24 hours or 48 hours to respond to the offer. The date that's inserted on line 40 in the residential offer to purchase is only for the seller to accept the offer as it is written. If the seller is not going to accept this offer as it is written, then the date on that line would not apply. It goes on to say that the seller may keep the property on the market and accept secondary offers after binding acceptance of this offer. So if the seller decides to accept the offer, then the seller can continue to market the property, and they can also accept secondary or backup offers, as we like to call them, after binding acceptance of that offer. And then line 42 says that the offer may be withdrawn prior to delivery of the accepted offer. So let's say the buyer finds another property or finds something that they like better, or maybe they have second thoughts about this property, or they do some additional research or obtain additional information, and they decide that, I really don't think I want this house, and so I want to withdraw my offer. Well, the offer can be withdrawn at any point prior to delivery of the accepted offer. So they may definitely withdraw their offer if they choose to do so. But it has to be done before delivery of an accepted offer. So let's say that the agent inserts the date on line 40 for the binding acceptance. And then they also put a time frame in there. So let's say they're writing the offer today, which is February 21st, and they have put a binding acceptance date of tomorrow, February 22nd. And then they also put a time frame in here. Now, if there's no time inserted on this line, then it automatically defaults to midnight of that date. So if there's no time, then the offer would expire at midnight, or we like to say 11:59 p.m. on whatever date is inserted on line 40 of the offer to purchase. Okay, so again, that date is for binding acceptance only. It's not a response date. So, don't think that the seller has until 7 p.m. Of February 22nd, which is listed here on the form, to respond to the offer, because that's not the case. That's only if they are accepting the offer as it is written. So again, that's on page 1 of the WB11 Residential Offer to Purchase. at lines 39 and 40 for the binding acceptance date. I want to move on to lines 43 and 44 under the binding acceptance clause. So when does acceptance occur? Well, lines 43 and 44 state that acceptance occurs when all buyers and sellers have signed one copy of the offer or separate but identical copies of the offer. So if the seller is accepting it, then they would sign off on it, and all parties would sign the last page of the offer, which is page 10, in which we have a copy of it here on the screen. So then the buyers would sign starting at line 575, where it says buyer's signature, and then their agent would print the name or type up the name here on the form, and then the buyers would sign and date here, starting at lines 575. And if there's two buyers, then they would both sign and date on these lines in the offer to purchase on page 10. If the seller is accepting this offer, then the seller would sign starting at lines 583, and where the seller would sign and date, and then their names would be printed. If there's more than one seller, then both sellers would sign in these spaces here, where it says seller's signature, then their names would be printed, and then they would sign and date on this form. And then the last lines at the bottom of the page 10 of the offer is where the agent fills in this information, starting at lines 587, where it says the offer was presented by the seller, the offer was presented to the seller by licensing and firm, so the agent would list their name, and then the firm name, and then the date on which they presented the offer, and the time that the offer was presented. So if the offer is being accepted, then these are the areas that would be completed and filled out in the offer to purchase form. There's a caution at lines 45 and 46 of the offer, and it reads as follows. It says that deadlines in the offer are commonly calculated from acceptance. Consider whether short-term deadlines running from acceptance provide adequate time for both binding acceptance and performance. What does that mean? Well, let's take a closer look at it. If you're writing an offer, let's say you're writing an offer on a Friday night, and you want the seller to respond within 24 or 48 hours. We're going into the weekend. So if you write an offer on a Friday and you have a binding acceptance date of Saturday or Sunday, consider that it is the weekend. And for some, that might be a non-working time frame. It's a non-business day, and so just keep that in mind. There might be certain religious or cultural practices that observe Saturday or the Sabbath day, and so certain practices they don't work. They may not work on Friday or Saturday, and so they may not perform any business related activities on those days. There may be some religious or other cultural practices that consider Sunday a non-working day, and so they may not perform any business-related activities on a Sunday that may be considered a non-working day. Or during the holidays, you may need to consider a few extra days to account for the holiday time frame. So if, again, weekends, there may be other observances or other time delays. So, sometimes people travel on the weekends, or they have other events going on with families and other things going on over the weekend. So just keep that in mind and consider that when writing the offer and inserting the dates for binding acceptance. If you're writing an offer on a Friday evening, late evening, and expecting the seller to respond by Saturday night or Sunday night, that may or may not be a realistic time frame for the seller. But then again, we are in a highly competitive real estate market, and transactions are moving at laser speed. Properties are selling at laser speed, and so these are just certain things to keep in mind when drafting the offer. So enough about that. So what happens if the offer is expired and the buyer's still interested? Do you need to write a new offer? Not necessarily. So let's say that your binding acceptance date has expired, and it's been a couple of days, maybe 2 or 3 days have gone by, and you notice that the property is still on the market. And the buyer says, "Hey, this house is still on the market. I would like to re-engage the seller and express my interest or continued interest in the property." But the offer is expired, right? So do you need to write a new offer? No. You can revive the offer with a counteroffer. And either party may do this. So if the seller, let's say the few days has gone, have gone by, and the seller would like to go back to the previous buyer and re-engage them, the seller can also issue a counteroffer to revive the offer. So again, you can use the WB-44 counteroffer form to revive a dead or expired offer. Either party can do this once the offer has expired. Now, is it cleaner to write a new offer? Sure, absolutely, especially if you're dealing with a lender. Lenders may prefer a new offer rather than a counteroffer, but you can certainly use the counteroffer to revive a dead or expired offer. You would change some of the dates around, obviously change the close date, and readjust the some of the other contingency timeframes in the offer, such as appraisal, financing, and inspection contingency, and make the necessary adjustments with the counteroffer. But again, it may be cleaner to just write a new offer and submit it. But so you certainly have some options. You have a couple of different ways that you can revive the offer, and a counteroffer is one option to revive an expired or dead offer. Well, that wraps it up for the binding acceptance clause review. And again, the date that is inserted on line 40 in the residential offer to purchase form is for binding acceptance only and does not refer to a response deadline date. So please, agents, make sure that you are coaching or educating your buyers on what this date means, because we're seeing a lot of offers coming through with this date, and a lot of buyers think that if the seller doesn't respond by that date, then for some reason the seller is in default, or the seller didn't respond by that date. But that's not a response date. That is for a binding acceptance date only if the seller is accepting the offer as it is originally written. And that concludes again the presentation or review of the residential offer to purchase form with regards to binding acceptance clause in the WB11 form. Thank you everyone for tuning in, listening to this brief session. I hope that you found the information to be of value and of use. And again, feel free to reach out to me at any time at 414-395-8771, or send us an email to admin@midexec.com, admin@midexec.com. We'd love to hear from you. We have some great agents on board, rock star agents that are really making waves in this market and just doing some amazing, tremendous things here in real estate world. So make sure you give us a call and speak with one of our rock star agents, Catherine Richards or April Bates. They are more than happy to assist you with your real estate transactions. And of course, I am Sonia Mays, broker, owner at Midwest Executive Realty. And thank you again for tuning in. Look forward to chatting with you again real soon. Take care all, and make it a great day, and God bless.